Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of our Arthritis at Home program. My name is Maya. I am so very happy to be speaking with Michelle Bridge today on the topic of maximizing your telehealth appointment and creating a joint-friendly workspace at home. Michelle Bridge is an occupational therapist who works as an advanced clinician practitioner in arthritis care within the Arthritis Society's Arthritis Rehabilitation and Education program, covering Windsor-Essex County in Ontario. She is a member in good standing of the College of Occupational Therapists of Ontario, the Ontario Society of Occupational Therapists, the Arthritis Health Professions Association, and is a constituent of its ACPAC Special Interest Group Committee. And internationally, she is also a member of the Association of Rheumatology Professionals. Her professional objectives focus on delivering best practice rheumatological healthcare, improving access to care for pediatric and adult patients with arthritis, and strengthening healthcare capacity, while also enhancing interprofessional care with the ultimate goal of improving patient outcomes. She has been with the Arthritis Society for nearly 6 years, coming from an occupational therapy background in chronic pain management, home care, and return to work, and 8 years experience working in kinesiology. Thank you so much for joining us today, Michelle.
Thanks, Maya. It's my pleasure to be here, and I am honored for the opportunity.
Thank you. So we'll get straight into one of our main topics for today, which is what can patients do to make the most out of their telehealth appointment with yourself or other occupational therapists?
That's a great question. And you know what? There's actually a lot that we can do to maximize our virtual appointments. The first consideration is to come prepared, of course, prioritize your questions. Effective communication is really the key to the success of any appointment, really. The Arthritis Society's website has some helpful tools to navigating your healthcare, which will be posted on the resource list at the end. But also note that virtual physical exams generally do take a little bit longer than face-to-face visits. So your appointment may be quite energy consuming as well. We may be asking you to do multiple transfers, getting into different positions to assess your joints. So try to book it if you have the possibility to try to book it during the time of day where it's your peak energy levels and ideally your least amount of pain levels as well. However, if you have known problems with internet connectivity, then consider opting for a morning appointment because that's when the internet is less cluttered and video quality can drop otherwise. The contingency plan is generally to choose audio over video. So let's discuss ways on how we can maximize video. So if you're given the opportunity to test run the technology of whatever platform you're going to be using, please do so before the appointment. In terms of what devices to use for the appointment, I've had the best success when my clients use a laptop, which is directly plugged into their internet cable, but then also, if possible, having the capability of Wi-Fi. So in the case where we need to relocate the laptop for perhaps a functional demonstration, then we won't lose connectivity. But if this isn't possible, that's still fine. I've had effective encounters when people use their tablets and their smartphones too. Sometimes I worry about bandwidth and encourage people to limit their household use of Wi-Fi during the appointment, but I know from experience that this can be quite difficult if you live with others. And then to optimize audio, you can consider using earphones with a mic. You also want to ensure that you're set up in an area with bright lighting, lots of room to move around. We're probably going to want to see how you're walking, how you're moving. Position your camera so that we can see your whole upper body with not too much space above your head. And also consider that our appointments are confidential. So you may want to set up in an area which is private, but at the same time, we might actually call upon the assistance of a support person if we need to do a certain measurement or whatnot. So to have someone on standby would also be a good idea. And then just like in a face-to-face visit, you're still encouraged to wear loose clothing. Have your medication list readily available so that we can review that as needed. And other things to consider is to have a scale, a measuring tape, a thermometer, a blood pressure monitor, if you have any of those devices, to have them nearby in case we need to make those measurements. And then we also know that rashes can be associated with rheumatic diseases, and they can be quite difficult to discern through video. So if you have some sort of baby blue material, so whether that is a towel, a pillowcase, a sweater, I have this newborn blanket that's baby blue on one and pink on the other, but if you have that and so you can put it on the background of your rash, it becomes a little bit easier to see. And we also like to look at your nails, at your fingertips. So if you can remove your nail polish, that makes things a little bit easier as well. And we recognize that virtual assessments can be difficult at times. So we try to apply these strategies to really mitigate any problems, which could lead to frustration. And as we know, that frustration could contribute to amplified symptoms. So we want to avoid that. But overall, clients have been very grateful to continue with their service plan in this different model of care. But there are some unexpected benefits of telehealth. So I would say that it truly is a privilege to see people in their own home. Um, Although through my program, through the Arthritis Rehabilitation and Education program, we did do predominantly face-to-face visits, but we did have the opportunity to do some community visits in the clients' homes and workplaces and schools. But now that we're seeing our clients virtually, I can much more frequently make these observations about their home layout, about accessibility, if there's any safety concerns. I can see how they're managing their own stairs instead of in the artificial clinic environment, and how they're doing transfers on from their own beds, or how are they getting on and off of their toilets, and how are they getting in and out of their shower. And they can also show me all of their different mobility aids, because oftentimes people have more than just one, and they don't generally bring all of them to the clinical setting, so I can see how they're using them in their own home. I can observe functional tasks again in their natural setting. I can watch how they're using their phone or tablet on their favorite chair, and how are they opening up their jars and gripping a pen and so on. So and then also I can see their relationships with others and how they may be coping in potential stressful situations. And then lastly, I would say that I would say that there is an unexpected benefit of the pandemic, if you will. So it really is forcing us out of our comfort zones to trial virtual care. And perhaps once things settle down, that virtual care will continue to be a common service delivery model.
It's really great to hear about. And I would also be very interested in hearing about this next topic of creating a joint-friendly workspace at home, whether somebody has lots of telehealth appointments or has now needing to work a full-time job from home. Is there a certain way that people can set up their work environment to be good for their bodies?
Yeah, definitely. And whether or not your arthritis has a significant impact on your ability to complete your computer work, these joint protection strategies are quite helpful. They can help you to stay healthy and productive. And we know that working from home in this new setting, perhaps for you, can put new strains on your joints. And I find myself now more than ever analyzing home workstations via video conference and educating people about posture and ergonomics in order to decrease pain, protect joints, and minimize fatigue. But if you don't have access to the ergonomic equipment that you may have had before our switch from working from home, there are some tips that I have. So of course, it is much more favorable to set up a desk with an office chair that swivels and rolls, and bonus points if you have a headrest. But if you don't have access to any of this, then the next best option is to set yourself up at a standard height dining room table. And I emphasize standard height because bar height tables or even kitchen islands, they typically don't allow for adequate foot support while seated. And this totally alters your posture and places a lot of pressure on our thighs. And so, yes, we can adjust this by putting a footstool under there. but ideally something more of a standard height would be preferred. But please, please, please avoid sitting on your couch or on your bed, because it really lacks all that support, all the lumbar support, your ability to support your arms on the armrests, and adjustability. And we know through research in our ergonomics that the best way to lower our risk factors in workstation environments is by frequently moving and changing posture, changing positions. So let's look at some slides on posture and ensuring joint-friendly workstation setup. Okay, so here we see the correct sitting posture. So if we move from top to bottom, so you want to place your monitor about an arm's length away and ensure the top of your monitor is aligned with your eye level, except in the case if you have an oversized monitor, in which case you would want the center of that monitor to be about 15 degrees below your line of sight. The next step would be to tuck in your chin so that your ears are above your shoulders, and you want your shoulders to be nice and relaxed, not slumped, and ensure your curve of your lumbar spine is supported. So if you don't have a lumbar support, you can roll up a towel or even a cushion would suffice. And support your arms on the armrests. You want your elbows to be about 90 to 100 degrees. Your hips should be slightly higher than your knees, which will allow for safer transfers too. Your knees bent at around 90 degrees. Ensure that your feet are flat on the floor. And like I said earlier, perhaps using a footrest it would be appropriate if they can't reach the floor or if you can't lower your seat. And then the seat should be level or sloping slightly upwards at the front, never downwards. And ensure that the depth of that seat is not too long. We want about an inch gap between the seat edge and the back of your knees when you're sitting back in your chair. And of course, in a perfect world, we would want our desk to have sit-stand capabilities. But that may not be realistic in our home environment. So here we see the correct standing posture. If you can switch to a higher table every now and then, that would be appropriate. Ideally, we want our ears, our hips, our knees, our ankles to be aligned with the gravity line that you can see here. The more forward your head position is, the more pressure that it places on your spine. So when the head is in neutral alignment, it places about 12 pounds of pressure on the spine. And as posture worsens, or as we develop more of a forward head position, that load really increases on the spine, and it could increase up to 42 pounds. So looking at the work surface, we want to keep our main work tools within arm's reach, which is termed here as the usual zone. And this includes keyboard, mouse, perhaps your coffee or water. This stops you from leaning forward and contorting your body into awkward postures to reach them. And then in the occasional zone, you may want to place your phone depending on the frequency of use, or your stapler or notes or whatnot. And then in the rare zone, the things that you use least frequently, because reaching strains on your muscles and your joints. Consider using a telephone headset to bypass the stress of the neck and the shoulders that come from repeatedly reaching for the phone or cradling it between your ear and shoulder. Bonus points if you, when you use your headset, you can do your stretches at the same time if you're talking on the phone. Otherwise, consider speech recognition software. This can also be helpful in reducing repetitive movements. You want to place your mouse as close as possible to the keyboard, and using an ergonomic mouse can also reduce strain. But try to avoid resting your wrist on the desk, because then that can create some carpal tunnel symptoms. In terms of laptops, so laptops have notoriously bad ergonomics. If you position the keyboard in the right place, then you strain your neck looking down at the screen. So if you do use a laptop more than just occasionally, then I suggest elevating the laptop to about eye level, as discussed, and then plug in a peripheral keyboard or mouse to use instead. Another little tip would be perhaps trying to get a document holder if you're trying to read or copy at the same time as typing, and this can help with preventing repetitive neck movements. And then in some people with inflammatory arthritis, there can be eye involvement. So in an effort to reduce eye strain, avoid bright lighting behind the monitor. Even a window, you wouldn't want to place that behind your monitor. And most importantly, take breaks for your joints and muscles to recover. So I like to say motion is lotion. When you move your body, you feed your joints. There's a lot of simple stretches and exercises you can do even while remaining at your desk. And I suggest even setting an alarm every 30 to 60 minutes, walk around, stretch. And on this slide here, you can see these are our top 10 exercises that are found on our website. But if you prefer video tutorials, then there is this stretches for the workplace video on our YouTube channel, which is also found on our website, a link to it on our website. So to summarize, just trying to set up your workstation as ergonomically correct as possible and being creative with using assistive devices and activity modification can really be quite effective. And remember, the biggest problem is holding a single position for a prolonged period of time. So keep moving to combat that pain, the stiffness, and the fatigue.
Great, thank you so much. I know I'm going to be referring to those graphics in this video as I try to set up a better workstation for myself this weekend. Okay, so finally, I would like to know if you have any final occupational therapy words of wisdom on living and working well with arthritis during this pandemic.
So, I see many people with arthritis and they continue to be very active and productive at work during this pandemic, despite having severe disease. And it's quite impressive because work is such an important part of our identity. And self-management through, for example, what we discussed, posture, ergonomics, exercise, is a really important concept in managing your arthritis. I like to say you are the CEO of your own body, and that's why it's so important to become an active self-manager.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your insight on this topic. I know it is going to be incredibly helpful to patients like myself. Thank you so much, and thank you to our viewers for watching. Feel free to leave us any feedback below this video on Facebook or YouTube, and tune in to our next Arthritis at Home video on